trying to ask.
See you later, guys. I'll have to see about getting myself in the July.
To chip away at the calcite deposits in the tunnel. Working in dark, dusty conditions.
Okay, I'm ready.
No more than a few feet high.
Oh, my Bruce. Anything else?
A volcano like this one would sometimes run for miles and miles, so the engineers had to know just where in the heck they were going. So every so often they dug a hole up to the surface, and these holes were called oki, or eyes. They would give the engineer a sense of where the direction of the volcano would be, and if they were wrong, they could redirect the volcano.
The water would navigate through the barrel-shaped tunnels, turning into different parts of the city where it was needed most, and coursing underneath the busy streets into the fountains around Siena, like the Fonte Gaia.
Now these channels had to be pitched at an angle ever so slight, imperceptible to the naked eye, less than 1 degree, because if the water flowed too steeply, it would overwhelm the system. So to keep this from happening, the engineers used an instrument called an archipendulum. It's nothing but a pendulum. It's a stick with a string and a weighted ball or stone at the end. No matter how much you pitch the stick, the string will always remain vertical, giving you a vertical line in relationship to the tilt of the horizontal stick. In this way, the water would flow quietly and evenly into Siena and fill up the Fonte Gaia.
By the year 1345, more than 10 miles of tunnels were functioning underneath bustling Siena. As a result, Siena continued to grow and prosper.
More water brought more people to the boom town. More people to the boom town, more turf is needed. Pretty soon, Siena controls most of southern Tuscany. Now, this prosperity and this land encroachment, if you will, would seriously become the burr in the saddle to one of its neighbors. Florence and Siena are the two dominant republics in Tuscany.
It was a rivalry on all levels: economic, political, artistically. And in the 13th century, the city-state of Siena, in all three of these categories, was probably Florence's superior.
The two republics would go head-to-head until Siena delivered a crushing blow at the Battle of Monteverdi in 1260.
Siena fights Florence. To put it bluntly, Siena kicks ass. Florence goes home in humiliation and defeat. But guess what? That ain't going to be for long.
The hydraulic engineering that made Siena the place to be couldn't sustain it through one of the greatest natural disasters the world had ever seen.
1347, the Black Death struck. And according to the eminent humanist writer Giovanni Boccaccio, who witnessed the Black Death, the disease killed so fast that you could lunch with your friends and dine with your ancestors in heaven. One conservative estimate is that Siena lost over 60% of its population in a matter of months. One thing is for certain: after the Black Death, Siena would never be a major player again on the stage of early modern Italy.
That singular event probably marks the end of Siena's role on a kind of international scene, and it also marks the beginning of Florence's rise to power.
The city of Siena was shattered. It would leave the door wide open for its arch-rival, Florence, to step into the void and engineer its own rise to power and glory, culminating in one of the most magnificent monuments of the modern era, a structure no one thought could ever be built. In the 13th and 14th centuries, cities are the power centers of Italy. But Florence is in a class by itself. The ruling elite is thriving, with money to burn. Man and his unlimited potential are taking center stage. It's a revolutionary idea called humanism.
Humanism, quite simply, is an interest in the ancient world. Italy, all you have to do is look around at the ancient ruins and understand how great man had been in the ancient world. It was all there. If we could imitate that building, if we could take the principles of that building and apply it to our buildings, then we'd have something really remarkable.
But when the Black Death struck Europe in 1347, Florence was not immune. Practically half the city's population was wiped out. It would take the region more than half a century to recover. But it would be a recovery like no other the world had ever seen. It was called the Renaissance, which means literally rebirth or revival. Throughout Tuscany, an elite patron class of super-rich families would wield their private fortunes to commission magnificent projects to work for the people.
There is an appetite among those who survive to enjoy life, to do other things, to understand or to sense that life is to be exploited in some way for those who are alive.
The Medicis of Florence, one of the wealthiest families in Italy, would lead the way in regaining the glory that had been Rome, restoring it in Florence and transforming the city into the new Athens.
The structure of patronage has changed. Patrons are using artists and architects to celebrate themselves.
The centerpiece of this effort would be the cathedral in the heart of Florence.
They've never seen a structure that looks like the one they want to build. That's a matter of ambition, of idea.
See that big old church behind me with that scaffolding on it? It's called Santa Maria del Fiore, otherwise known as the Duomo, or Cathedral of Florence. It was built by a guy named Arnolfo di Cambio around 1200. But you know what? He was dead before it was ever finished. Arnolfo intended for the church to have a dome, but he's dead, so the church stands for a whole bunch of decades without any dome on it at all. Finally, in the 1400s, it's left up to a guy wearing a real genius suit named Filippo Brunelleschi that not only changed the entire idea of building to become an architect, but to make the entire field of architecture a design.
Brunelleschi had grown up in a middle-class family and was expected to become a government bureaucrat like his father. But Brunelleschi was interested in the art of design and first became a master goldsmith.
It's only in his early 30s that he then moved over and began to become what we now call an architect.
Brunelleschi is a maverick and he's brash. His dad is a notary. Brunelleschi wants to study sculpture. Wonder how his dad reacted to that one, huh? Probably like my old man reacted when I told him I wanted to go to New York and become an actor. In any case, by his early 20s, Brunelleschi is a pretty fair goldsmith. Now, in 1401, the baptistry decides it wants to replace its doors, so they hold a competition. Competition comes down to two guys, Brunelleschi and the international Gothic man of the hour, Lorenzo Ghiberti. Brunelleschi was pretty good, but he ain't no Ghiberti. Ghiberti wins. Brunelleschi runs away with his tail between his legs, humiliated and defeat.
He loses the competition to Ghiberti in 1401. And it sets up the kind of perfect opportunity for him to leave the city of Florence, then go to Rome and study the secrets of the ancients.
Brunelleschi may have spent nearly 2 decades studying in Rome, examining the most important structures of great Roman engineering.
Renaissance Italians are fascinated with the way Romans did everything, or the way things were done in ancient Rome, and building is no exception. A big part of the enterprise of Renaissance engineering is recovering this ancient knowledge.
One structure in particular may have had a lasting impression on the young Brunelleschi, the Pantheon. Had the Romans found a way to build it without complex wooden scaffolding supporting it? Over those 2 painstaking decades, he may have examined every inch of that dome, which spanned 142 feet, struggling to unlock the secrets of its construction. When Brunelleschi returned to Florence, he could have brought with him the secrets of Roman